It had been 3 weeks since we escaped. 3 weeks of silence. 3 weeks of waiting for something to happen. But nothing did. No threats. No warnings. No sudden knocks on our doors. Almost like they had let us go. Almost. And then the invitations came again. Not an envelope this time. A message. Private. Encrypted. No sender. Just a location. A small, discreet restaurant on the edge of the city. Neutral. Safe looking. A simple line of text. 4 answers you deserve. At first, none of us replied. We weren't that naive. But the guilt gnawed at us. The man in the red tie, saved, but broken. The questions left hanging. The truth we hadn't uncovered. And there was the man with the expensive watch. The one who had stayed behind to buy us time. The one we never saw again. He hadn't escaped with us. We owed him. At least, that's what we told ourselves. That's how they baited us. And this time, we didn't see the trap. Not until it was too late. The restaurant looked ordinary. Too ordinary. Dim lighting. Soft jazz humming in the background. A handful of tables, half empty. A single waiter polishing glasses behind the bar. No guards. No cameras, at least, none we could see. No signs that anyone was waiting to trap us. Still, my skin crawled. The woman in silver sat down first, posture relaxed, but her eyes scanning the exits without really looking. The older man stayed near the door, pretending to check his phone. The pixie-cut girl slipped into a seat opposite me, casually flipping through the menu. We didn't speak. We didn't have to. We were all thinking the same thing. Too easy. Too clean. Too soon. And then he walked in. The man with the expensive watch. Alive. Smiling. Wearing the same sharp suit, the same easy charm. For a second, none of us moved. He crossed the room like he belonged there. Confident, unhurried. And sat down at the head of the table. "Miss me?" he said lightly. The woman in silver offered a polite smile, but it didn't touch her eyes. "You're supposed to be dead," the older man said, voice even. The man with the watch laughed. A short, easy sound. "Almost was," he said. "But I'm here now. And I know things." He leaned forward, lowering his voice just enough to draw us in. "They didn't plan for me to slip through. I found a way. And now, we can end this." The words hovered over the table. Tempting. Dangerous. I caught the pixie-cut girl's glance, brief, sharp. The woman in silver shifted slightly in her seat, adjusting her napkin, her breathing too steady to be natural. None of us moved to challenge him. Not yet. But none of us relaxed either. Because deep down, we all knew. People don't survive nights like that without becoming part of them. He leaned in, hands flat on the table. Relaxed. Open. Too open. "I know where they operate from," he said, voice low but sure. "Not just the ballroom. The real headquarters. The people who orchestrated everything." None of us answered. He didn't seem to notice. Or he didn't care. "They made a mistake with me," he continued. "Thought I was disposable. Thought I wouldn't find my way back." He smiled, that same smooth, polished smile. "I can get us in. Not through the front. Through the side. Quiet. Fast." He tapped 2 fingers against the table, marking out invisible points on a map only he could see. "We go in together. Tonight. Finish what they started." The woman in silver shifted slightly in her seat. Not tense. Not suspicious. Just, measuring. "And what exactly are we supposed to finish?" she asked calmly. He smiled wider. "Exposure," he said. "Names. Records. Evidence." The pixie-cut girl raised an eyebrow. And we're supposed to believe you found all this, by accident? The man in the watch gave a soft laugh. No accidents. Just opportunity. He leaned back, as if the conversation were already won. As if we were already his. The older man finally spoke, voice dry. Feels a little convenient. The man in the watch didn't flinch. It is, he said simply. Because this time, they won't see it coming. And we'll be ready. He paused. Let the word settle. And it would have worked. It should have worked. Except for one thing. When people fight to survive, they carry it with them. The fear, the scars, the hesitation. He didn't. No nervous glances. No tells. No cracks in the facade. Just smooth confidence. Like someone who wasn't fighting for his life, but delivering exactly what he'd been told to say. And for the first time since the night of the ballroom, I realized. Maybe we weren't walking into the end of the game. Maybe we were walking right back to the center of it. The man with the watch leaned forward again, lowering his voice even more. They built the ballroom for one reason, he said. To test. Test what? The woman in silver asked quietly. He smiled thinly. Loyalty. Instinct. Pressure. They needed to know who could think fast enough. Who could adapt without breaking. And for what? I asked, voice sharper than I meant. He paused just a beat too long. The first real crack in his polished delivery. Then he smiled again, as if amused. For the real work, he said simply. For the ones they want to bring inside. A cold knot twisted in my stomach. Bring inside. Not eliminate. Recruit. You think it was random we got those invitations, he added, glancing around the table. Each of you, backgrounds in analysis, observation, psychology, investigation. You're valuable. Useful. The older man crossed his arms. And the ones who failed the test? The man with the watch shrugged lightly. Some disappeared. Some are still, pending. He said it like he was reading from a report. Like it wasn't even personal. The pixie cut girl leaned forward, her voice low but sharp. And the headquarters? What is it? Another pause. Another careful smile. A hub, he said. Data, research, strategy. He made it sound dry. Administrative. But something in the way he said it. The precision, the emptiness. Made it sound worse than anything I could imagine. And why you? The woman in silver asked suddenly. Why let you live? For the first time, the man with the watch hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second. Barely noticeable. But enough. They didn't let me, he said finally. I made it out. But even as he said it, even as the words left his mouth, I didn't believe him. Not really. And deep down, I knew. We weren't being given a second chance. We were being led deeper. One step at a time. By someone who already knew exactly where he was taking us. The man with the watch pushed a slim black folder across the table. No dramatic flourish. No theatrics. Just quiet inevitability. Inside. Maps, building layouts, guard schedules, entry points. All perfect. All too perfect. Tonight, he said simply. One shot. Before they shift operations underground. The woman in silver tapped the folder once, her expression unreadable. And if we don't? She asked. He didn't hesitate. You'll never find them again. And you'll always wonder if they're still watching you. He said it softly. Gently. But it felt like a blade pressed lightly against the skin. I looked around the table. The older man, silent, measuring. The pixie-cut girl, leaning back, arms crossed, jaw tight. And the woman in silver, still calm, still composed, but her hand resting a little too still on the table. No one spoke. Because we all knew. Either we moved now. Or we spent the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. The man with the watch smiled again. You trusted me once, he said. And you made it out alive. He let the words hang there. He was right. We had trusted him. And we had survived. But now? Now it felt different. Like the ground beneath our feet was shifting. Like we were being moved into position. Without ever seeing the hands that pushed us. The woman in silver finally closed the folder with a soft click. What's the price? She asked quietly. The man with the watch tilted his head. Price? She met his gaze without blinking. There's always a price. For a moment. Just a flicker. Something cold passed through his eyes. And then he smiled wider, easier. You already paid it, he said. And somehow, that was the worst answer he could have given. We left the restaurant separately. No goodbyes. No plans spoken out loud. Just silent agreement. We were in. At least for now. The man with the watch stayed behind, sipping coffee like it was just another night. Another casual meeting among friends. The woman in silver was the first to step out into the cold night air. The older man followed, hands deep in his pockets. The pixie-cut girl lingered, just for a second, watching him. Watching us. We moved like strangers. No eye contact. No hesitation. The city swallowed us up. But inside, the same thought gnawed at me. Whose plan were we following? Ours. Or theirs? At the corner, under the sickly yellow glow of a street lamp, we gathered again. No words. Just glances. The woman in silver spoke first. He's too prepared. The older man nodded once. Everything we want to hear, he muttered. The pixie-cut girl crossed her arms, shivering slightly. And if it's real? She asked. If it's our only shot? For a moment, the street felt too wide. Too exposed. A soft breeze stirred a loose newspaper down the sidewalk. The only sound. If we walk away now, I said, we'll always wonder. And if we walk in, the woman in silver said flatly. We may not walk out. None of us argued. Because we knew. We had always known. The first night, the ballroom, was never about testing our skills. It was about testing how far we would go without questioning. Our willingness to step deeper. Without knowing who we were serving. And now, standing in the cold under a dying streetlight. We were about to make the same choice again. Maybe the last choice we'd ever make. The file he gave us was detailed. Painfully detailed. Maps. Schedules. Security rotations down to the minute. Access points. Blind spots in the cameras. Weaknesses in the shifts. It should have made us feel confident. It should have made us feel ready. It didn't. Because the more we studied it, the more wrong it felt. Too neat. Too easy. The woman in silver traced a line across one of the floor plans with the tip of her pen. Look at this, she said quietly. Exit routes. Only 2. Planned, the pixie-cut girl muttered. Forced. The older man leaned back, frowning at the schedule. And here, changeover gaps exactly 12 minutes apart. Every floor. Every corridor. He tapped the paper sharply. No system runs that perfectly. We didn't say it out loud. We didn't have to. It wasn't a mistake. It was designed. We weren't being led to an opportunity. We were being channeled. Funneled like cattle toward a place someone else had chosen. On a schedule someone else controlled. And once we were inside, I didn't want to finish the thought. The woman in silver closed the folder with a soft thud. What's the play? The pixie-cut girl asked, voice low. The woman hesitated, just for a second. Stick to the plan, she said finally. But not their plan. We would follow the map. Follow the timing. But on our terms. Move slower. Take side corridors when we could. Break the patterns they expected us to follow. We wouldn't run their playbook. Not entirely. Because the only way to survive a trap is to act like you don't know it's there until you turn it back on them. The building looked abandoned from the outside. Old bricks. Faded windows. No sign. No lights. Exactly as described. Exactly as planned. We approached separately. Circling the block first. Checking angles, counting windows, noting cars that shouldn't have been there. There weren't any. Too empty. Too easy. The woman in silver reached the side entrance first. An old service door, half rusted, slightly ajar. No alarms. No cameras visible. The pixie-cut girl followed, silent as a shadow. I came last, with the older man trailing behind. Eyes sweeping the street one final time before slipping inside. The hallway beyond was narrow. Concrete walls. No sound except the faint hum of ancient fluorescent lights. We moved fast but not rushed. Staying a few steps out of sight from every open space. Changing our pace just enough to throw off timing. They had planned for people who followed orders. Not for people who would rewrite the orders mid-play. At the first turn, the woman in silver caught my arm lightly. She pointed. A tiny camera, tucked into the ceiling corner. Half hidden. Knew. Watching. Always watching. But we knew better now. She pulled a small mirror from her jacket pocket, tiny, unassuming. She angled it carefully. Used it to map the corridor beyond the camera's sight line without stepping into its view. A second passage. A cleaner's closet slightly open. Not on the map. Not on the plan. An option they hadn't wanted us to see. We moved. Quick. Precise. Inside the closet, the air was musty and thick with dust. It hadn't been opened in months. Perfect. From inside, we waited. We listened. Footsteps, measured, professional, passed just outside the door. Not random patrols. They knew we were supposed to come. They just didn't know we weren't coming the way they expected. The woman in silver breathed out slowly, barely a sound. We weren't surviving anymore. We were adapting. And the ones who built this trap. They hadn't planned for that. We moved through the service passages like shadows. Step by step, deeper inside. The walls changed first. From cracked concrete to smooth steel. From dust to sterile air. The further we went, the less it felt like an abandoned building. The cameras were more frequent now. Hidden better. Smaller. And the doors. They weren't rusted or broken anymore. They were new. Sealed. Controlled. Everything about this place was wrong in a different way. Not chaos. Not negligence. Design. Order. Intention. The woman in silver stopped suddenly, raising her hand. Ahead, a window. Small. Set into the door. She gestured me forward to look. I pressed close, careful to stay in the shadow. Inside. Not servers. Not files. People. 6 of them. Sitting in a stark, brightly lit room. Each at a table. Each facing a wall covered in screens. Each screen filled with us. Images from the ballroom. The stairwell. The loading dock. The restaurant. Us moving. Speaking. Choosing. Watched. Logged. Measured. They weren't trying to destroy us. They were studying us. Perfectly. Patiently. Preparing for something else. I pulled back from the glass, blood roaring in my ears. The woman in silver met my eyes. And for the first time, I saw real fear there. Not panic. Not dread. Something worse. Understanding. We hadn't broken free. We hadn't escaped. We had been allowed to survive. Because the real test was only beginning. To be continued in part 4.